know what I love about this core of Gundam Witch from Mercury is how, as much as I loved the first core, there was a lot of setup, a lot of establishing moments, and honestly, ever since this show returned with Core 2, it just feels like payoff after payoff. And not just because like there's a big fight scene or there's a shocking death or big explosion, but it's all these little moments. And I love how rather than wasting time and stretching plot points out to the point of 5 episodes later we see Mio back on the battlefield, this episode 100% confirms, and you can look at the previous episodes and a lot of the mannerisms coming from her, we could tell she was absolutely crushed and depressed, and as seen by her literally curled up on the floor, her hair is a mess, she was there for a while. But in terms of anime episodes, it's only been a couple of weeks. But I think that's what makes an episode and this season of Gundam in general so good, is that we understand how characters are feeling. We understand how Suletta feels betrayed by Eri or her mother or Mio, but when other people come to her aid and show her that she still has other friends, it makes sense why she would then be able to pick herself back up. And the exact same thing happened with Mio in this episode, and rather than wasting the viewer's time, because we all knew we would get back to this point, instead, we are setting up the fight I think we've all been waiting for, which is Eri versus Suletta, aka the Ariel versus Caliburn, and I am hyped for more. Full live reaction to this wonderful Gundam Witch from Mercury episode is available on my Patreon. If you do want to see my full uncut thoughts as I watch today's episode, you can head on over there and consider supporting if you so wish. Now, this episode was awesome. They start off badass and they end badass, but it's all the content surrounding that in the middle portion that really just ties it together. But you have to admit, in terms of an establishing shot, when you're only using 60% of what someone like Prosper wants to use, and you literally have this entire force, they literally launch something that looks like it's ready to blow up the Death Star, and immediately does nothing. Okay, let's try the missiles, and yeah, they just get redirected right back towards you. Like, this is an insane system. So, obviously we knew you couldn't use anything that uses that system if you want to go up against Prospera. So what you have to do is use something that doesn't use the interface or anything like that. So what ends up happening is we are building up to Suletta getting up to rank 5 here, but not only is that dangerous, even though she's definitely the most compatible out of anyone there, at the same time, you're basically flying a Gundam without navigation. It's, as they explain, it's like driving with a blindfold on. It is ridiculously dangerous. No one should be able to do it, at least in theory, most people couldn't do it, and not only that, you're gonna have to fight for your life, you're gonna have to attack people, and you're gonna have to go up against arguably the most dangerous people you've ever fought up against. So, this really does speak wonders. I mean, we've already known, I know there's been some people in the Gundam Witch from Mercury fandom who basically thinks the only reason Suletta's ever won a duel is because of Ariel, and while that's true on earlier fights, there's been multiple moments where it was all Suletta's doing and Ariel didn't take control. So any doubters who still think that she's not capable and that she's just someone who's been along for the ride, this should shut them up, because this is literally flying with a blindfold on, and we see what she was capable of in those short couple of moments. And honestly, if you're not hyped as hell to see Sister Reunion, I mean, why are you watching the Gundam Witch from Mercury greatness? Because this is literally what we've been building up to. And it's not often we can see Prosper go from her demonic, crazy smile to it almost dropping as she sees Suletta, like knowing that it had to be her, of course she would come, but obviously she is seemingly a tad worried about what could happen. I love the fact that rather than just simply, I'm coming here to talk to you, to stop you, and have everyone hold hands again, she knows what she wants to do. She wants to try to talk to them, but she even knows she's gonna have to fight them, and it's gonna be very, very interesting to see what they do. Something I really like about the fight scene that we currently establish at the end of this episode is that because of like the wall of technology that's kind of like, it's a big bubble around them, you get a really interesting backdrop as all the explosions are happening on the foreground. It just makes it a lot more interesting than if they're floating in space and firing. While that can be fun and it's always great to see, I mean, you can look at Gundam Thunderbolt, it looks absolutely stellar, but something like this, it really catches my eye because it's such a captivating backdrop, because there's so much like glitchy lighting effects going on, as then you have all the badass imagery popping up in the foreground. It's just really nice. And I mean, it's not even just like the actual action that's impressive with animation, it's actually the body reaction. So there's these like little moments with Mio prior to her getting up and talking to Suletta, and it's the little moments where usually animators, they don't do this either because they forget a human would react like this, or maybe they just don't have the time to do it. But Witch from Mercury is a pretty polished production, so when she's sitting on the ground, at one point when she's basically tensing up and flinching, her toes will like curl and you can really just get a sense of stress. It's all those little moments in a show like this that really make you feel like this is why her getting up and coming to Suletta's aid in a way makes sense, because we can tell how haunted she is and how guilty she feels about not only pushing someone like Suletta away, but also just everything that's happened with Prosper and how she feels like she has so much blood on her hands. But of course, we know her actions weren't because she wanted to do something like this. Yes, hindsight is 2020, but of course, we know deep down she actually is a pretty good person. So it's going to be interesting because we establish a lot of really nice moments. I mean, we pretty much get lended out the Gundam we need, and obviously if we put even a scratch on it, we're probably going to have to pay an arm and a leg. It's a good thing Mio has daddy's money, because goddamn, that's probably going to cost an arm and a leg, all things considered. But it's nice, right? It's just all these little moments, like the last tomato and how like we can grow another one. Or honestly, I thought the ship was going to explode when basically they're holding out the hands and we're building into them grabbing. I was expecting the ship starts shaking or something. I don't know. I just had the worst case scenario on my mind, but that's what Gundam does to you, right? You can expect the worst, as much as the worst person to be in a Gundam series is the casual civilians who have to deal with the politics of this world. You also still worry about the characters you come to know and love at a moment's notice. I've been no stranger to saying that Gundam has been one of my favorite shows to cover on this channel over the past few seasons, and we're building up strong. As I continue to say, whether this was originally planned for 2 cores only, or like most modern TV Gundam series, 4 cores, this show sells way too well. They're continuing to introduce new Gundams for new Gunpla kicks. I mean, literally, this show, this universe has so much potential, well beyond even Suletta and Miorin's story. So I just feel like that it would be a shame not to continue to expand even outside this cast of characters with this universe, because it has so much potential. I mean, business-wise alone, this should be poppin'. I mean, I think they still are unable to keep the shell stock for Gunpla kits for the Witch from Mercury series. So, I mean, I think everyone on the production committee's looking, being like, hey, even if we plan 4 cores, maybe we'll do a spin-off, maybe we'll do a movie. Let's just keep popping this off, because not only are the Gunplas cool, because the Gundams in this show are cool, but most importantly, people seemingly are just so interested in this world. But no matter what, Gundam ain't going anywhere. We're always going to have new Gundams pop up, but this one has definitely impressed me and is rising up my rankings of my personal favorites. But thoughts and feelings, because this just felt like payoff. It felt like all the setup we've been building up, it just feels like payoff. All the conversations that were great, that duel with Guel, I thought they were baiting us and we're actually going to duel. I was like, that doesn't make sense. But little fencing duel, I was like, okay, that's actually kind of fine, and kind of shows how far they've come since the beginning of this show. But thoughts, feelings yourself down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new around here. Of course, ring that bell so you can get notified when I upload more Gundam Witch from Mercury on the channel. And as I mentioned, full live reaction to this wonderful episode is available on my Patreon. And while you're there, you can also get a video shoutout like Enderwolf, Coconut, Randomly, and Ronga Rage are getting today. So I appreciate the support, everyone. Please take care and have a good one.